Before Samuel L. Jackson had to deal with snakes on a plane, he had another terror to face, as he had to deal with sharks in a science lab. In 1999's The Deep Blue Sea, a movie that revitalized the shark monster movie genre that was made famous by Jaws. Deep Blue Sea tells the story of scientists genetically enhancing sharks in an underwater lab in order to do research to find a cure for Alzheimer's, where the sharks are now meaner, bigger, smarter, and have an appetite for dispensable horror movie scientists, in which after a few mishaps and a storm, the research team is trapped in the lab, with the sharks released and hell-bent on hunting them down in this exciting action-packed shark fest. So today we are going to start off the Halloween season of 2019 by diving into the scary depths of the ocean and looking into 10 things that you didn't know about Deep Blue Sea, a movie which is now 20 years old. Wow, where does the time go? Number 10. Inspired by a real-life shark attack. The script for Deep Blue Sea was written by Australian scriptwriter Duncan Kennedy, and his tale of terrifying sharks comes from a place of reality over fiction, as he got the idea after witnessing a real-life shark attack in his hometown. Duncan was so shaken up with what he had witnessed, he suffered reoccurring nightmares where he was being stalked by sharks and even stuck in passageways with them, only the sharks could also read his mind. So Duncan took the terror of his dreams and used it as creative inspiration, and thus he wrote an early draft of the Deep Blue Sea script. In the final movie, the sharks couldn't read minds, but the nightmares is no doubt probably what led to them being super advanced sharks over regular ones. So yeah, if it wasn't for one truly horrific real-life shark attack, then Deep Blue Sea may not have happened. Number 9. The production started in 1994. After Duncan Kennedy wrote his script of The Deep Blue Sea, Warner Bros. Purchased the script as early as 1994. However, the production was put on hiatus, as Warner Bros. Wanted rewrites made to the script, to which several were done, before husband and wife writing team Donna and Wayne Powers took over and worked the script much to how it would be seen in the final film. They claim to have made the Deep Blue Sea feel more like a horror film with helpless victims with no tech to fight the sharks back with, and that the original script was very action movie orientated with an almost military feel, what with army tech such as grenade launchers and other weapons being used. They toned the action war movie approach down to make the characters more like everyday humans. So the characters were less like the futuristic military team from Aliens and more like the weird wacky storm chasers seen in Twister. Number 8. Renny Harlin's mission for box office success. Finnish-born director Renny Harlin's career had a real promising start, having directed such hits as A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Die Hard 2, and the very popular Sylvester Stallone action epic Cliffhanger. However, despite his strong start, his career started to dwindle somewhat, having directed not very successful movies, those being Cutthroat Island and The Long Kiss Goodnight. And I don't care what any box office numbers say, The Long Kiss Goodnight is one badass action movie. But regardless, the pressure was on for Harlin to redeem himself after making 2 flops, so The Deep Blue Sea was something of a comeback project for the director, to get himself back into the box office domain. Harlin also helped a lot with Deep Blue Sea's creative process too, and was a hands-on director. He took inspiration from Alien, in that he wanted a bunch of characters whom the audience didn't know who would live or die, so he mainly wanted actors who were unknowns at the time, with the exception of Samuel L. Jackson. Many of the actors seen in the film would become big Hollywood talents, such as Thomas Jane, Stellan Skarsgård, and Saffron Burrows. Also, apparently he was forced to cast LL Cool J by the studio, but to be honest, LL Cool J is the most enjoyable character in the movie. At least he got to release 2 singles to coincide with the movie, those being Deepest Bluest and Say What. Number 7. Filming location. Pretty much most of Deep Blue Sea was filmed at Fox Studios in Rosarito, Mexico, with certain sets being built that could be submerged in water. What's interesting about the sets used in Deep Blue Sea is the crew recycled water tanks that James Cameron had built for Titanic, and thus built sets on top of them. So yeah, the tanks that were used were left over from the popular hit Titanic, which is pretty cool. After the principal shoot, Harlin ordered the crew to go to the Bahamas to film real-life sharks to integrate with the animatronic and CGI sharks used in the film, to which Thomas Jane claims that he had to swim 30 feet down, and had his breather taken off him, and that the water was full of blood and guts, and that it was an experience that he would rather not remember. Harlin would go on to say that the Deep Blue Sea was the hardest film he ever made because of all the underwater filming, and that the scripts and other paperwork, which were made out of plastic and meant to float whenever not being handled, still sank to the bottom rather than floating. Number 6. Unable to escape the shadows of Jaws. Despite the fact that writer Duncan Kennedy didn't want Deep Blue Sea to resemble Jaws and for it to be its own thing, it seemed inevitable that Jaws, the granddaddy of shark movies, would rear its head and be referenced in this revival of the genre. So much so that when the production was designing the animatronic shark for Deep Blue Sea, Renny Harlin insisted that it would be 26 feet, making it bigger than Bruce, the animatronic shark from Jaws, which was 25 feet. When the animatronic shark was brought on set, Samuel L. Jackson claims that everyone was in awe of the size of it, and reacted to it as though it was a real beast monster. Also, Deep Blue Sea features a scene involving a license plate being pulled from the shark's teeth. The license plate was the exact same one used in Jaws, in a scene where Hooper pulls out a license plate from the dead shark's stomach. And giving that 007 was on the plate makes me wonder if that was paying homage to James Bond, of which Steven Spielberg, who directed Jaws, was a fan of. So imagine that, a prop that was a reference to Jaws that was a reference to Bond. Even here in Australia, the comparisons between Jaws and Deep Blue Sea were inevitable, as I remember one night in 1999, one of the TV stations had a shark-themed night, where they broadcast the making of the Deep Blue Sea, followed by Jaws 2. In fact, unless I'm mistaken, I think Deep Blue Sea was the first major theatrical shark movie since Jaws the Revenge. Number 5. Memorable movie death. Because Samuel L. Jackson was the only big actor at the time starring in the movie, you would think it was his story and that his character, Russell Franklin, would survive and be the team leader of our group of helpless shark prey. But nope, halfway through the movie, while giving a motivational speech about how they're going to survive, the Franklin character is suddenly and shockingly killed, in a scene that completely catches you off guard, where a shark leaps out the water and eats him. It's kind of comical as much as it is shocking. The scene instantly stands out as a memorable moment in the movie, and often makes it to lists of best movie death scenes. And usually when most memorable deaths are being discussed, Franklin's death in the Deep Blue Sea usually rears its head. The death scene is a gimmick that was introduced in Psycho, with the killing off of what appears to be the movie's main protagonist quite early on in the film, who gets killed off in a sudden and shocking way, of which first-time viewers wouldn't expect. Interestingly, Samuel L. Jackson was originally offered the role of the Dudley character, which would have seen him survive in the end, but Jackson's agents didn't want him playing a chef. And so the Russell Franklin character was purely created for Samuel L. Jackson. And it's just as well, as his shocking, untimely death is a standout moment in the film, and movie deaths in general. Number 4. An on-set mishap led to an awesome scene. There is an intense moment in the film where the shark hurls the body of the Whitlock character at the glass screen of the underwater laboratory, with it increasingly cracking until water pours through, knocking the characters off their feet and sending them flying. According to Samuel L. Jackson, this wasn't meant to happen. He explains that by sheer mistake, 3 tons of water were poured onto him and the other actors, which knocked them off their feet, with them being swept away into the cargo bays and other metal debris. Also, none of the actors were wearing any safety harnesses, creating a very terrifying situation, where thankfully no one was hurt. And also, apparently the cast just got up from the ordeal and just continued to act out the scene as if nothing happened. On the account of how cool the scene looked, it was decided to use the shot in the film, So I guess you could say it was a happy accident. Number 3. Sequel. Wait! There was a sequel to Deep Blue Sea? When? 2018? Last year? Like, how did I not know about this? Well, yeah, apparently there was a sequel to Deep Blue Sea. Okay, I haven't seen this movie, so I can't really pass comment on it, but from what I've researched about the film, it's basically a remake, with genetically enhanced sharks in a high-tech facility, running amok and going on a killing spree, because I guess they didn't learn from the first movie. Deep Blue Sea 2 was a straight-to-video release. That kind of went under the radar, hence not even I knew about it. And it really has nothing to do with the first movie, making it a sequel in name only. And I don't really have much interest in seeing it, as the trailer didn't exactly wow me. But who knows, maybe it's good. But either way, I'll stick with the original. There's even talks of a third movie being released on Netflix. Number 2. Deep Blue box office performance. Deep Blue Sea opened up to a moderate success. Probably not the huge hit that Renny was hoping for, but still managed to make $164 million at the box office on an $82 million budget. It opened up on the number 3 spot, but on its second week run, it was pushed back to number 5. After all, the movie was up against fellow horror movies, The Sixth Sense and The Blair Witch Project, both of which were insanely popular movies at the time. It was even trailing behind Runaway Bride and the Thomas Crown Affair remake. The reviews for the film were okay, fairly mixed, with it inevitably getting compared to Jaws, with the consensus being that it's not as good as Jaws, but the action and set pieces are still lots of fun, with it being an enjoyable B-movie, but not exactly a masterful return to the killer shark genre. The film was compared to other movies that came out that summer, such as The Mummy and The Haunting, in that they were basically popcorn flicks, not masterpieces, just a bit of leave your brain at the door entertainment. Number 1. Original romantic ending. In the Deep Blue Sea, the Susan character, played by Saffron Burrows, is something of the movie's villain, be that a misguided villain, in that the whole ordeal is basically her fault. So I guess you could say she's kind of like the mayor from Jaws. She had the best of intentions, but those intentions got innocent people killed. So in the end, when she sacrificed herself and was killed by the sharks, it's kind of like the character's redemption, and gives a satisfying conclusion to the character. However, oddly, the movie originally didn't end this way. Originally, the character survived, where her and the Carter Blake character share a kiss, which is really weird. I mean, I never got the feeling that the two characters were romantically involved, and given the fact that everyone else had just been killed by sharks, wouldn't it be an inappropriate time to get all smoochy? Well, the ending was changed because the test audiences hated it. They saw the character as a villain and thought that she should die. So Harlin and the crew set out to do a day's filming at water tanks at Universal Studios, where the new ending was filmed. I think having her die is a better ending, as it makes the character accountable for her terrible mistakes and decision making, rather than getting rewarded for them. Deep Blue Sea is a fun B-monster movie. It's not a masterpiece and can't live up to Jaws, but heck, what can live up to Jaws? It's something to watch if you're bored and need a bit of a thrill, but it's not going to stick around with you too much longer after watching it. But that's okay, there is plenty of room for roller coaster movies. You get your quick thrill and then it's done. And I do consider the Deep Blue Sea to be a roller coaster movie. Anyway, I'm Minty, and yeah, for some reason Ronnie Cox has a tiny cameo at the start of Deep Blue Sea, where he doesn't say anything, he just sort of sits there and looks awkward. Random? See ya!